Hey there, I have a feeling that you buy stuff off of Amazon. If I'm right, you can actually help out the network by going to Duckfeed.tv/tipjar and using the Amazon link there. That is an affiliate link that gets us a kickback every time you buy something. Once again, that is Duckfeed.tv/tipjar. Doesn't cost you anything extra, and it does a lot to help us out.
Some of our landings were desperate adventures. We are now prepared to meet the inevitable counterattacks with power and with confidence.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Kole Ross.
And I'm Illusory Wall.
And you're listening to Bonfireside Chat. It is a beastly favorite.
Yes, and this week we are talking about Hemwick Charnel Lane, which is a fun area off of the Cathedral Ward. And as you heard, we are joined once again by Illusory Wall, who you may remember from last season's special episode about data mining. Hey, Illusory, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, so for people, I mean, we do our best to make sure people who listen to the show are familiar with what you do, and we reference it a lot. But in case anyone is listening and doesn't know, can you talk a little bit about your relationship to Souls and kind of the place that you have in the community?
I spend a lot of time sort of testing weird mechanics and also trying to look for unused content. So pretty much any time there's something that's really not too well understood about the games, I try my best to sort of dig into it and see if I can find out anything new.
Yep. It's your work's over at illusorywall.tumblr.com, which is and highest recommendation. Like it is. I visit that website frequently to check for updates. I don't subscribe to any Tumblrs because I don't. That's not how I interact with the internet. But I just check it frequently, and I'm way into it. And especially like there's not only one of the things I like is that not only do you find this stuff, but then also you're genuinely interested in it. So when you find somebody else who has found this stuff, you'll link it as well. I put it on our Facebook page, the guy who you linked who explored that village at the bottom of Demon Souls.
Oh, yes. And actually, that guy's doing some testing right now, learning new stuff about how world tendency works. So we're going to be preparing something on that.
That's very cool.
6 years later.
Yeah,
exactly.
still learning about
yeah. But yeah, you helped bust open Vagrants a little bit, like did some of the most extensive testing there, and have done some stuff with kind of the world geography and Dark Souls too. What's kind of your white whale or your big task for Bloodborne? Like, what's the what are you heading for?
This is going to sound so stupid. I feel like with Bloodborne, a lot of stuff was pretty much figured out with the guide. Like everything was pretty much in there. Because with the lack of covenants and stuff, there hasn't been, I feel like, as many nuanced mechanics. Like with the past couple Souls games, there might be something like Sin, where you don't really know all the details of how it works. But I feel like Bloodborne was pretty much covered pretty quickly. But like one of the loose ends that's intriguing to me, I was going to talk about this later in the episode, is enemies that have unique audio to them. Not that there's necessarily like any secrets to be found, but just stuff that could be easy to miss. Like sometimes you'll have an enemy model that throughout a level, like it will usually make the same sounds, but every now and again there seem to be like certain ones that will be like the only one in the entire game that like says a few lines. So I'm hoping to like maybe try and find all of those and maybe make a compilation or something.
Yeah, that would be really interesting because we've talked about that. One of the things we talk about with Bloodborne is how one of the principal ways it feels different than our Souls games is that, the enemies talk to you. Like these are sentient creatures you're fighting. And then after, when we did the episode where we talked about Father Gascoigne, someone on our Facebook mentioned that the brick troll that's down at the bottom of the ladder has like a unique line that I'd never heard before. And then I've just been kind of listening for stuff like that. But I haven't been able to find a compilation of them online. So that would be really cool.
Yeah, like there's an example, I'll bring it up later in the episode, but there's also a brick troll in this level that I'm pretty sure is the only one to do this sort of thing. So
that's cool. Yeah, nice. I dig that shit.
Cool. Yeah, like my biggest project with Bloodborne right when it came out was to do level range testing, but that's pretty much squared away now. So we already have like a working calculator and everything, and so yeah, that the level ranges are usually like the first thing I always try to jump into. the Souls games, since I know that's like in high demand.
Yeah.
But yeah, with that out of the way, it's just sort of open to just poke around at whatever seems fun.
Yeah, very cool. Like
Nice.
I'm way into it. Keep doing what you're doing, buddy.
Thanks. I guess I should quickly mention the other big thing is cut content, but no one's like cracked the PS4 format, I guess. As I've mentioned before, I'm not really that big on the technical aspect of that. I usually just sift through stuff that other people find. So I'm like waiting for someone to figure out how to dump the Bloodborne files, because that would be immensely awesome to actually find out what sort of unused content is there. But I have not seen like any progress on that front, so who knows how long that'll take.
Right.
It would also be awesome so we can pull clean audio clips for the beginning of episodes and the like.
Yeah.
Without the mouth breathe filter.
Like, who knows? That probably won't even happen until after you're done with the season. So
yeah. Well, welcome. The story of Bonfireside Chat.
Yep.
I mean, it happened with Demon Souls. So we got all the way through that season before people started putting that stuff up.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm also waiting for that. Like I love trivia. Like I love unused stuff like that. That's like so interesting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the monster design is so universally good in Bloodborne that I'm curious to see if there's anything weird like the owl people hiding around.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. Yeah, something like kind of really crappy.
Yeah, or if it's anything that hints at what they're going to do with the expansion.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So all roads of interest. Yeah. So we're super happy to have you on one of my favorite areas of the game.
Yeah.
This area rules.
Yeah. This is really, really good. I find I'm really drawn to Bloodborne's like kind of modular areas that are cut off from the rest of the game. Like I like these little side paths.
Short stories, man.
Yep. Exactly. What did we do last time, Kole?
So last time, we finally reached the apparent seat of the healing church in the cathedral world. Cathedral world.
The cathedral world. The worst theme park.
We got there only to defeat their transformed vicar and learn a password that is used where? What? So the nearest apparent path leads us to a wooded village and a whole new kind of horror for this game.
Yeah, it should be noted that we could have done this before we did Vicar Amelia. We also, this is not a critical path. This is another one of the Bloodborne gobsmackingly like optional areas. Like, oh, I don't have to do this? Weird. But it is, you get a huge gameplay advantage to doing it in addition to just having the fun. Yeah, so this is the first time we've actually left Yarnum. So this is the kind of wooded village that's on what's known as the frontier.
Yes, as indicated by the fact that you use a different headstone to get to the lamps here, meaning that the headstones are like the archstones a little bit.
Yeah, and this is Spooky Town, USA. Like this is not Edgar Allan Poe and Victorian werewolves. This is like defiled, decrepit villages full of like unseen rites, and who just string up outsiders and decorate their houses with them. Like this is the we went through the kind of werewolf stories. We're gonna eventually end up in the cosmic stuff, but this is the Lovecraft of like the picture in the house and the festival and stuff. Yeah. This is like Town with a Dark Secret.
It's like you've gone from New York City to West Virginia.
Yeah, exactly.
A Wicker Man would not be out of place.
Right.
Yeah. And, appropriately, like this area is presided over by this coven of witches who are obsessed with eyeballs. And that eyeball obsession seems to be kind of a theme that we have encountered here, somewhat subtly with the statues having their eyes occluded. But it is, even in this primitive area, that is holding true.
Yeah, and we'll talk about why that is. I find this to be one of the more lore inscrutable parts of the game.
Yes.
And the bosses and stuff, and spent all of today that I've been awake, and I sleep in pretty late, but I've spent a couple hours today just kind of digging at threads and trying to figure this stuff out. And
there is nothing.
It's hard. Like it is hard. And it makes me wonder if there's more information to be revealed, or if it is literally just like a very gameplay heavy area, like kind of focused area without so much kind of to the lore side of things. So what we can come up with is this is either, and this is the first thing that you have here I thought of as well, even though I don't think it's actually true, but it was the first thought I had, is that this place is possibly affiliated with Canehurst, which we'll talk about way later in the season. But that is we learned a little bit about it from Alfred already. The home of the Vile Bloods. It is a kind of a faction in this world, and this is nearby that.
Yes.
But doesn't share very much else with it.
Right. It just sort of feels like it's all along the way to it.
Yeah. Like it's, Canehurst is all about the blood, and this place is all about the eyeballs in a way that like the most anything can be about eyeballs. Like this is like 1,000 optometrists stacked to the moon.
This is up there with Blade Runner.
Yeah. This is more so. I would say this is like 20 Blade Runners. Like this is so eyeballs.
So much eyeballs.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other connection to an area we're going to talk about later is Yahar Ghul. And the idea of kind of where these ritual body parts that we're going to be using to get into these labyrinths are coming from. So Hemwick being a kind of a place where bodies tend to be, as we're going to see when we get into it. That is another possible thread as well. Possibly kind of confirmed by some of Eileen's dialogue talking about these or her item descriptions talking about the ghastly Yharnam burial rituals.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are like bodies in sacks here.
Yeah.
So it could be literally this is the village that grew around their their river runoff of corpses from Yargul. Because I don't think that this is where the Yargul rituals take place. And I feel like they're different rituals. Yeah. Like the people in in Yargul and the School of Mensis have different kind of end goals than Chalice Divan, which is where you get stuff from here. So like it could be something that like grew like in the ecology grew up around that.
Yeah.
I think, which I kind of like that idea as well.
Or just serves a need for bodies.
Yeah. So not totally sure, but that's close. Do you have any ideas, Illusory? Did this, I mean, not that you have to, like I said, we spent a long time digging at it, but like, does that square with what you've thought about, or do you have anything else that you thought?
Yeah, no, the lore for this area has totally escaped me. Yeah, I've never really even thought too much about how it fit into the rest of the game. I think I get easily distracted if an area is just really fun to play and looks awesome.
Yeah.
It's usually if an area is like a lot smaller and doesn't have much to it, I might be thinking, what was the point of this? But the whole level, the way it's designed, has these really cool set pieces that connect to each other. So I found myself just completely forgetting about how it relates to the rest of the game and just getting absorbed into the area. So it's definitely like that short story aspect to it, where I was lost on how it was connected, but didn't even really seem to notice.
Yeah, it's a story told through atmosphere,
right?
Kind of because this is one of the strongest like senses of place and sense of atmosphere in the game. I think like this is foreboding in a way that no other part of the game is foreboding,
right?
Which I really love.
Right down to the name, even like when you walk into this and you see the little title pop up, it's just like, yes, of course, there's something called the Charnel Lane.
Yeah, and lane is such a Paul McCartney-esque word. Like it makes it sound way more cheerful than it actually is. You never think of like a lane as being anything sinister.
Something funny about the name too, which I learned from one of Epic Name Bros videos. I would have never noticed this in game, but when you walk into the area, it actually has the name written in English above like the entranceway. There's like a piece of wood that says Hemwick or Hemwick, however you pronounce it, and it's like, that's odd. You don't really see that in the Souls games.
Yeah, like this is known as that to the people in the world,
right?
As opposed to just the player.
Right, yeah, very odd, and just odd to see it written out with like HEM. There's like places in the Souls games where like maybe the books in the Duke's archives have like English writing on them, but that's more of a case of just kind of like picking from stock textures. I think it's not supposed to be an implication of the languages used in the world, but it's the first time I've seen like an area or anything that major just use English on it. It's kind of odd.
Well, especially when you consider, this is getting a little bit ahead of things, but the tombstones in here, the texture they used is Polish writing.
Yes, yeah, I remember hearing that.
Yeah, you can actually like make them out. Like it's translatable. And it says something like to a good departed wife or something like that, which like if it wasn't written in Polish, you would think that could be an intentional lore thing, but I think they just grabbed a texture.
Yeah, I think the same thing.
Somewhere. Yeah.
But
it is when you have this English stands out, like any written language you can read, not in an item description, like in the real world definitely stands out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, we've started doing the theses again for the different areas, and this one's pretty strong and also pretty simple. And it's not all streets and wolves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we're out of the, we got a taste of being out of Yharnam with old Yharnam, which felt a little bit different, but this feels way more different. Yeah. But some of my affection for this area probably comes from it being the first major area I explored that felt 100% different.
Yeah. And after Central Yharnam and even Old Yharnam to a certain extent, having something that is kind of as linear as this is a little bit of a unique thing or a special thing as well.
Yeah. Yep. So let's talk about how we get down here. You go left from the cathedral where Amelia is, and you enter this first kind of vestibule area, the Hemwick Woods.
Yes. And there's a corpse here where you find one of those bloodshot eyeballs, and you're going to be finding a lot of those well before you can actually use them.
Yeah. Yeah. And in volumes that you probably won't use them for a while.
Right.
Just drowning in this eyeball-based economy.
Yep. And they're just in case you don't know, those are used for chalice stuff later on.
And we'll be talking about those soon enough.
Yes. But as you go down here, this is a wide open kind of forest wooded area that is peppered with riflemen, with huntsmen who are going to be taking shots at you while their dogs are coming after you. So this is kind of the huntsman's cops very tightly packed in.
But with ranged attackers.
Yes.
Like it is like the huntsman's cops, but with
literally hunters. Yeah.
Yeah. With and it's hard. Mm-hmm. Like this area, they cover each other. Like if you aggro one, they're very difficult to pull because they're obviously the ranged attackers. So if you get one's attention, it just gets everyone's attention and they just shoot at you. Mm-hmm. So this was like my first time through this area, I had a really rough time. This is where I first busted out the poison daggers. Or the first time I may not be the very first time, but I definitely end up making use of those to just kind of, tag somebody and hide behind a tree and wait for them to die just to thin out their ranks. Just because it's very easy to get stunned by them. And the hunters and the dogs work so well together because, while you're getting attacked by the dog, it's very difficult to move and it's very easy to take a couple shots.
Yeah, and there are often so many of them that taking cover from one that you can see will open you up to another one that you can't see.
Yeah, they're really well placed.
Yeah, and the dogs here are more dangerous than the dogs earlier in the game too.
Yeah, these are better, stronger dogs.
Yeah.
They're spikier. Yeah, they look a little bit more like bristlier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something I did because I played through that area last night too. I never played through it in the daytime before, so I want to right that wrong before we recorded the episode. And I was like, I don't feel like fighting everything in here. I just sprinted through the area. But when I opened the door, I had a couple dogs that chased after me, so I just used the shaman bone blade on them so they could fight each other off, and I could just kind of keep running away. So.
You monster, Michael Vickian monster!
Yeah,
you can't shaman bone blade a dog
and a lot. That weapon rules.
Yeah, but you're participating in dog fights. It's awful.
They're demons. It's fine.
I guess that's true. Like, and it's not that different than like putting a Houndoom versus Snubble in Pokemon. So yeah,
your Growlithes and whatnot.
Yeah.
Something else you're going to notice when you walk into this area, aside from these huntsmen taking pot shots at you, is that like this is pretty much wall to wall shallow graves.
Yes, and that continues as well. And they're graves on top of graves on top of graves.
Yeah.
Like it is, yeah, it's deep.
There is a theme, and when you go out to these different kind of enclaves of the huntsmen, there you find that they're actually guarding some really, really good upgrade materials, and that's kind of one of the big reasons to come here. Aside from how fun it is to play, is that like if you're having trouble with any of the bosses from prior places, you can dip in here and actually really give yourself a 1-up on upgrading your items.
Well, and not least of which because of the item you get at the end.
Well, yeah,
which allows you to activate your ring slot essentially.
Mm-hmm.
This has an insight thing. When you went through here, Illusory, did you go through here with the required insight? Have you done both, like without the insight and with?
The first time I played, I did. So I had stockpiled a lot to insight because I was doing the like level range testing. The first test I did was to try and find out how many enemies, how much like echoes other players drop online, because you can use that to find out their levels. So I had like way more insight than I think a normal player would have by their, the point you'd reach this area. So I didn't even learn until somewhat recently that those things don't show up, like that they have a requirement.
Yeah, typically on my first time through, I definitely didn't have enough insight. for them. But then on subsequent times, I've gone through with it. And when I went through to refresh my memory, and when I come back to visit Canehurst, I always have it, and it's always kind of a surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think my first time through the area, I probably had like at least 60 insight. So
wow. Yeah. What we're referring to is there's a special enemy that pops up here called Mad Ones. Yeah, and they are very spooky. They've got kind of this shaggy bramble of something or other, and they're very tall and lanky. And they hit very hard and very fast.
And they have tons of resistance.
Yeah,
like they are hard to kill unless you have I think a fire weapon is good against them. I would need to double check that, but they have a lot of physical resistance. And then on my character I'm going through for the show, I'm just doing a strength build, and he's using the Tonatrist. Tonatrist. And that doesn't do very much to them either. Like my regular axe does just as well. So they're pretty tough. And we're going to run into them more often. But I love the way that they just spawn from the ground. Like
from those red swirling portals.
Yeah, there's one that appears right out in the forest as soon as you actually get into the woods. So if you warp to the bonfire here, there's one that appears behind you. Like you just hear a sound and turn around, and one of them rises from the ground. It's a really cool moment.
Yeah. I'm taking a look here and seeing if they're listed as being kin or beast, but I cannot find that information. So they are neither.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, that's not something I've looked up before.
So once you make your way through the forest and you've either braved or ran past the hunters, you actually get into the village itself. You see that sign that Illusory mentioned on the big gate and a very welcome lamp. And you see this huge kind of building in the distance here. But this is a weirdly laid out area. The way the shortcut works in relation to each other, and then the way that the actual final area looks from as you approach, all these things are kind of strange.
Yeah.
Here.
Like the angles are off a little bit, it feels like. Yeah. And just it very much is like walking down a crooked hallway.
Yeah. Yeah. And at this point, you can kind of go off. No, that's a little bit further down. So you only have one direction to go down now. Again, you're just seeing gravestone upon gravestone. But you head down and you get to the first area where you see enemies here. And it's really, really like affecting because they're dancing. They're dancing,
and you can hear this kind of mad laughing as you approach. Like even as you open up the gate.
Yep. This is where it becomes rural West Virginia.
Yes.
I live in West Virginia, so hopefully I'm not offending anyone. So.
Yeah, they're half tilted on moonshine.
Yeah, exactly. It's all Gumo in this shit. I mean, I guess that's Ohio, but that's the like Gumo, man. There's parts of your state that are.
No, I know. I was just gonna say like that. that part of the state is indistinguishable from West Virginia.
Right. Because of the blurred lines between the two.
Yeah,
it's just the swamp people areas.
Yeah.
And there's one of them that's praying at a gravestone, and you can't lock onto her. So she's kind of invisible. So that's kind of the way they set up these ambushes. If you lock onto the first dancing witch, the one and walk towards her, the one that's praying at the gravestone will aggro.
Yeah. And these kind of act like huntsmen insofar as they have a wide variety of weapon loadouts. Some of them are carrying these very fierce-looking irons on the end of poles that are like they look like spears that have been heated up in a fire. Yeah, some of them have these gigantic mallets and stuff.
Yeah, comically huge sledgehammers.
Yep.
These Gallagher 3-esque like
these, yeah, it's a Tom and Jerry mallet.
Yeah.
And ambush is pretty much their primary verb. This whole area is a donut around this large statue of a robed, hunched figure.
Yeah, and I was trying to figure out that figure, and I couldn't. Then that's just the theme of like statues in this area I can't quite figure out because there are a bunch of them in the boss arena as well that I don't really understand what's going on with them.
Yeah.
Because they're not the same statues that we've seen. They're not like stock Yarnum statues. These are unique statues, but I don't know who they're of.
Right. My best guess is that they're of the witches, but that is tenuous.
They don't have the same body shape.
Yeah.
And the witches have such a totally unique silhouette. And they're kind of their hunchbackery, that is like this area is about eyeballs to the degree that they're about hunchback. Like I've never seen a back hunch like this. So this is I don't know what so it could be the witches, but maybe the witches in their salad days.
Yeah. There's also torture equipment here. There's a body on a guillotine kind of table that has another bloodshot eye as well. Mm-hmm. So this is continuing. That wasn't just a fluke.
And if you head off to your right, there's this building that is just decorated with hanging bodies in bags, in a really grotesque way.
Yeah.
And
I was approaching those, and I kept my eyes peeled because I was expecting those bodies to move.
Oh man, like RE4.
Yep.
Like
just to have them writhe around a little bit.
Something that we go through a lot in the Souls games, we talk about what area would smell the worst.
Oh god,
this has to be up there, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, like there are just more dead bodies. Like there's not so much feces as there are in some other areas in Souls games, but there are a lot of dead bodies, like per capita.
Yeah, like an upset, like not quite Valley of Defilement upsetting because that's feces and corpses.
Yes,
but this is probably the highest corpse per capita, per corpsita.
Yeah, I mean, other possibly New Londo ruins, but those corpses have been all like underwater forever.
Yeah, that's basically mud at this point.
Yeah, like they would just literally sluice away if you touch them.
So I guess the question is, what's the best smelling area?
Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
Maybe Canehurst. It's got people cleaning there, so
yeah,
it smells like Lysol.
Canehurst is not a bad because it's all ghosts, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of rotting feasts.
Oh, I suppose.
There.
Yeah.
Yeah. The roofs of Canehurst probably smell lovely though. Like just like
fresh snow. It is cold and snowy out, so that might mask some of the smells.
I was gonna say, like, if you're looking for something that would just smell inert, it would probably be like the Painted World, right? Just something so frozen that nothing really, nothing is really happening there biologically. Although let's see here, the illusion version of Anor Londo.
Ooh.
Oh,
it's all statues and stuff.
Olfactory illusions.
Yeah.
Like does Gwendolyn make it smell like, fresh laundry?
Yeah,
all the time.
It's 80% cathedral, so you have to imagine there's going to be sensors and stuff. Like aside from 3-1, that's the only real Yeah,
I love the smell of wafers, and the sensors in 3-1 are coming out of human faces. Like I bet you that doesn't smell like good incense.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Good question. We never thought about like what might smell nice.
And there's going to be one area that we completely forgot. Like I'm sure Firelink probably smells okay. There's not an awful lot happening there, although that is above the graveyard, isn't it? Fuck.
Yeah, it's above a graveyard, and yeah.
Well, and also Fram's breath. Shit.
Yeah, he's just constantly. Literally, yes. Frank's breath. Or Fram's breath, shit. For all the turds who feed him. That was a fun season. But this is an NPC here, which it's one of the NPCs. I don't think she actually gets replaced when all the NPCs or a lot of the NPCs get replaced either. I could be wrong about that. But she changes like everyone does. And when you first run into her, she kind of has some non-additive atmospheric things to say.
Yeah.
That don't make that much sense.
Can you hear the graveyard murmur? I can't wait.
Yep. And eventually she just starts making beast noises.
Yeah.
If you come back later, after you've moon shifted.
Yeah.
Like
there's a broken ladder back around the house, and just like every time I look at that ladder, I'm like, man, I wish I could go in there, but like,
Yeah, it really looks like you could use it. Mm-hmm. I had that today when I went back. This is also where the shortcut is, but we haven't opened it up yet. It's just a inoperable elevator at this point.
Yeah. So with that way closed off to us, we have to head out the back of the village and make sure that you turn around because you can actually see some of the big bridges in Central Yharnam as you're leaving this area. So again, it's really cool to see one area from another.
Yeah. Yep. So you kind of continue your way down past this village square into this little, I want to call it a graveyard, but like the whole thing is just graveyard. I always read this little area as a graveyard, but it's all graveyard. Like another little ambush point.
Yeah.
Where there's a Molotov tossing witch or a lady up top and a mallet wielding dancer that comes down and kind of ambush you with dogs.
It's weird because this is kind of the one area in this the one area in this zone that feels like it was built to be defensible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You make your way around here. You run into a brick troll here. Is this the brick troll that you were mentioning earlier, Illusory?
No, this one's a little bit later.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just check with each one.
Right.
There's only like two.
I think there's only like 3 in the level or something, but yeah.
Yeah. But this guy, he is kind of guarding like a big gate, like a big portcullis that you are eventually going to open from the other side, making this a very shortcut-rich area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But as it stands, again, you have to... Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say there's another little ambush down here as you pass this. Like a literal, just like a little tucked-in closet where there's a witch that will take you out, just kind of playing in a defensive bit.
Oh, yeah.
And you can drop attack her too, if you want to, which is nice. Yeah, it's defensible. So you kind of pass by some crows. This is where that elevator actually leads to.
I'm surprised there aren't more crows because those are they're established to be carrion birds,
and they love eyeballs.
Yeah,
like they drop pebbles which look just like little eyes.
Yeah.
They're all just relegated to like crow corners. Things going downhill in crow corners.
Marvelous estates down at Crow Corners.
Yep.
Yeah, but they're there outside of this the top part of this elevator that takes you back down, which lets you skip, I guess, that defensible area, so you don't have to fight that brick troll again.
It's another one of those things where like I also welcome the return of shortcuts in Bloodborne, but also a lot of them are of kind of limited usefulness.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see them, but like I never use the shortcut.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, I do like how this shortcut sort of connects to the next one. I guess we can talk about that when we get to that one, though.
Yeah.
Because it sort of like turns you around. It's like you have one shortcut that bypasses this one little chunk of the level, and then you can use it to sort of chain into this other shortcut. The way it's shaped is a little odd, but I like it.
Yeah.
When you say the other shortcut, you mean walking through the portcullis?
Yeah, because I like going up like you go up the elevator and then you can like hang a left to go to the portcullis. So I like that little path there. So.
Yeah. But this is as close as we get, I think, to kind of a classic Demon Souls level structure a little bit, where the critical path is at first a long, like snaking S kind of shape, and then the path that you ultimately open up is a straight line that cuts right through it across all the curves. You know, like this is like it's like an accordion of level design. Yeah,
and those are always my favorite levels too.
Yeah.
Like I love that Demon Souls design.
Yeah. But over here beyond this, you have a very rickety plank bridge that takes you to another brick troll that, for me, was kind of a very stark reminder that visceral attacks only work if you are on the same plane as the enemy, and it doesn't work on a hill. So, like, fighting this guy for me is... I always forget that, take a couple of hits, and then have to run back to a point where I can get him on even footing.
And the thing with the visceral attacks that can be a little annoying too is sometimes they do work on like sloped surfaces, but it's just not very like it's hard to know what the cutoff is, like with your difference in height or whatever. So so like a lot of times I'll still try it, thinking like, oh, I might get it this time, and then just like nope. Oh, but this is also the brick troll that I was talking about. If you don't cross that rickety bridge and just sort of hang out on the other side and watch him walk back and forth, he has like this like 20-second loop where he just paces around, and when he comes into view, like at the end of the bridge, he does like this kind of really anguished wailing. Like he does this weird moan. And I just recorded a YouTube video of it earlier today, so I guess I could link that to you guys. Maybe put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's weird. I don't recall any of the other ones having this particular sort of moaning sound. I mean, maybe they do. Maybe it's something I didn't notice before. But if listeners want to check that out, I'd be interested to see if that's like if it's totally unique here.
Yeah.
That seems to be like that repetitive behavior seems to be a hallmark of these guys, because remember our first one was kind of banging on the other side of that gate consistently, and then the other one, the one that's at the base underneath the little girl, is also kind of like banging on that door. I wonder what that says about them, but it's just a weird observation.
Yeah, I think they're really bummed out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would also just say that they're just like low intelligence brutes, set to a task and then just kind of mindlessly doing it,
Yeah.
Because there's something like they're not quite human.
Right.
There's something going on with those guys. Like, I mean, I guess they could be if the art style was more exaggerated for humans in general.
Mm-hmm.
Like they could be humans in like BioShock or Dishonored, but they're not humans in Bloodborne or Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and I always draw him back across the bridge anyway, just because he's being covered by a Molotov tossing lady inside this stable.
Yeah.
Inside this bar.
This really spooky bar.
Yeah, full of dead horses.
Mm-hmm.
Poor guy.
This barn is awesome. It's one of my favorite set pieces in the entire game.
I love how dark it is. Like this is you definitely have to have a torch in this if you want to hope to avoid any kind of ambush.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And like it's I haven't had the pleasure of playing the game with headphones yet, but even without headphones, the audio here is awesome. I mean, it just gets really spooky. There's like this moving door, I think it is. I forgot what the object is in the environment, but it's getting smacked against the building with the wind, and it's just the whole area is really spooky. It's great.
Yeah, super, super cool. If you head up to the top of this, one, you run into a wheelchair hunter, which is kind of odd. Like, what's that guy? That guy's far from home.
But this is sort of one part of the level where I actually sort of did have an interpretation of what's going on with the storytelling. This is a little short story, I guess. Because I was thinking about the wheelchair guy. He seems kind of out of place. And but when you approach him, his back is he's like aimed away from you. He's looking more towards this open windowsill type area. And there's a corpse that's like draped over that.
Yeah.
So I get the impression like he's like he's like the farmer guy who's just trying to protect his barn. Like it's like someone was trying to climb in through that open spot and he shot him. And there's also this one other corpse on the floor that's laid out more like respectfully. It looks like they weren't maybe killed. And like I wonder if that was like a family member of his that passed away. So it's weird. I definitely get the sense like he's protecting his barn.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like the bottom floor is just kind of all lousy with witches.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of got this defense set up.
Yeah, he's like holed up on the top floor. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. I don't know. Is it just my bias against farm equipment, or do those workstations that are like, kind of scattered around this stable, they look pretty grisly, right?
It's context.
Yeah.
Like I don't think you can be blamed for
thinking something terrible was happening.
Yeah. Like they're not just like, crafting horseshoes and I don't know what farmers do. Crafting horseshoes, I guess.
That's a blacksmith, Gary. Yeah, the horseshoe harvest is pretty slim this year.
Yeah, I got horseshoes up to an elephant's eye. Yeah. Well, I was thinking what they could do at a workshop.
Yeah.
What a farmer does at a workbench.
Yeah.
Like farm work, I guess.
Tightens the corn. Yeah.
Yeah, corn tightening.
Yep.
Corn Sarnet's brother.
Corn tightening.
Corn Titan.
Oh! Yeah, he's the brutish country mouse to Corn Sarnet City Mouse.
Hello.
That's a continuation of the Duckfeed Wide.
Yeah, exactly.
Running joke of Corn Sarnet.
Angling for a wiki.
Yep. So, can you tell me why you think there's a madman's knowledge up here? Because I've started paying attention to where those turn up.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I stopped paying attention to where those turn up. Like I started out paying attention. Like I feel like we probably had opposite arcs because that first Cathedral Ward grave area with all the madmen's knowledge is like, oh, this is significant. And then I feel like as the game goes on, there are more of them that are just on corpses places.
Right.
So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if you have any ideas, I'm not.
Oh no,
confident in that opinion. I just, I kind of stopped paying attention.
I really don't. I'm curious about kind of like the channelers in Dark Souls 1. Like people, madmen's knowledge comes from people who have really high insight. Right.
Yeah.
And we'll leave it in those terms for spoiler reasons, and wondering what they are doing in those places, and specifically why it turns up right there, or wherever it does outside of the places where it kind of feels like they are just dropped there for items purposes.
Yeah.
I'm kind of grasping at straws for item based storytelling, but that's kind of the best indication I have.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky. In retrospect, it seems odd that like humanities were and stones of ephemeral eyes were so haphazardly placed in the previous games,
Right.
given that they did have like this lower significance and also were such an important item. But I never thought to think about like there are no instances or very few instances I can think of like meaningfully placed versions of like the item equivalent of that.
Right.
You know, it could be, I'm not saying that they don't exist, but it just doesn't feel like it's that frequent. It feels just like a high value reward. But to your point, like this does seem like it's just kind of in the middle of the level.
Yeah.
They could also maybe be trying to give them out at this point so that maybe you're tempted to use them and then you could run into the I forget what they're called already.
The mad ones?
Yeah, the mad ones.
Yeah, so you can trip the limit.
Yeah,
right.
that could definitely be trip the limit. Are you a snowboarder all of a sudden?
Yep. Yeah. So you can do a mad sick nasty.
Yeah.
A 460 and
420
nasty.
fuck my dad. Yeah. I love when you leave this area and you go out on the rooftop. One, because you get this huge view of this lake, which I love. You get to see this big castle in the distance, which I really like. But I love the way these roofs are built to kind of overlap. And like it gives the impression of like building, like it makes me think of like the Winchester Mystery House. Like you just kind of keep building on top of this thing, and it's kind of like metastasizing, you know, as a structure. Like it's not being built with care at this point, you know. So like sections of roof overlap. Like there are sections that you know, kind of run into one another and jut at odd angles. It just kind of like I like that kind of tone by architecture.
Yeah, it's the Hemwick walled city.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
So I'm really happy that we have you here for this Illusory, because I'm wondering if you have a better answer for this than I do. What is that castle off in the distance?
What is the castle?
Yeah.
Wait, isn't that kind of like spoilers? Maybe.
Is it?
If you're asking whether if you want to say that's Canehurst, we've said the name Canehurst and that there's a castle.
Yeah.
Yes.
Connected. So that's what I always assumed it was, but I haven't looked very close.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. In fact, you bringing it up as a question is now making me like totally second guess myself, because I was like totally confident that's what that was. Because I feel like that is in the general direction of it. The path that you take to get there later on. I think the geography lines up. Like I think it's a straight path from the path that you take. I mean, there's a cutscene and all for that, but I'm pretty sure that was meant to be Canehurst. I guess before the game came out too, I didn't try to watch like too many. Like I sort of I don't play completely spoiler free, but I don't keep up with like all of the trailers. But I did remember like seeing mentions of the Canehurst castle early on, and my first time through this area, as soon as I saw it, just in my head, I was like, "That's Canehurst." So I might be a little bit biased because of that as well.
Yeah, I mean that's my best guess at it too. The only thing that throws me off is the weather.
Well, so we'll talk about that when we get to Canehurst. So I like, and without, you can put in a marker here, Cole, because I'll just say it and it doesn't have to go in the episode. Sometimes
I figured that's the case, but I just also like it's hard to get a good look because of the weather. At like kind of the silhouette that Canehurst facade covers up, and so just a whole bunch of stuff is making me like second guess that.
Yeah, and the fact that your monocular only gives you like a 10-inch zoom,
right?
So,
yeah. So I'll censor something with that, something in there, so it'll be fine. We just keep it rolling. But but yeah, these rooftops. I also get the sense that they're doing some rooftop farming too, because grass is growing out of it.
Yeah. It's just like because it's been built into the side of the mountain.
Yeah.
Like it's almost, you get the sense of like a mountain growing up out of a house, which is crazy and cool. So you head down, you have this other little rooftop area where there are some more, just witches or ladies, and there's another brick troll that you fight up here. But you go down to the other side of that gate, and you see this area that's full of like executioners and dogs. Which at this point, executioners are non-trivial.
Right. Like,
and running into two of them right at the base of when you get down from this little silo that you walk past is, corpse silo too. This is a silo filled with corpses. Yeah. Can be really tough, but hopefully you can get to that gate and unlock it.
Yeah, and that will give you a pretty good straight shot back through this area, which actually opens up a really good farming location as well. After you defeat the Witch of Hemwick, you can actually run back, and these executioners drop a lot of stuff. But as of right now, there are so many of them, and they're on a patrol path to where fighting one will definitely get you in trouble with another.
Yeah, or the dogs.
Yeah. So many dogs, and they're hanging out down by the bridge, by the lake, mostly.
Yeah, that's dogs for you. So you head down to the lake, and you get a rune, the lake rune, which augments defense. And lakes are interesting in Bloodborne lore because they act as this kind of bulwark against the the gods.
Yeah,
for lack of getting too far into the later half game cosmology.
And this is, I think, the third rune that we've gotten, aside from the communion rune in the cathedral, and also the beast rune at the bottom of the cathedral ward as well. And we're going to get the item that lets you use those later on, and we'll discuss what those actually are when that happens. Soon. Yes, yeah. Very, very soon.
And so on your way up here, you're on your way to the boss, really. On your way to this huge structure, this kind of old, torn out castle. On your way here, which is like. It's very interesting. There's a couple interesting things that happen. Like one, you have an executioner that's kind of like, he looks like he's kneeling in front of this treasure chest next to this cabin. And I don't know why he's doing that. But the main thing that I really noticed this last run through is how big and elaborate the structure looks for how little of it we get to explore.
Yeah.
That we're heading into. And it just like suggests like, what is this? What purpose does this building take up?
Well, it reminds me of Harvest Valley or the Earthen Peak a little bit, just in the way that it looks. I don't know if that's a color palette thing, or just kind of they're in similar states of decrepitude. But that doesn't say anything about the purpose of it, but that's what it's reminiscent of.
It just seems out of character for, like, we know who lives here, and it is a person of station, but it seems like an odd place for that person to live. So it's just interesting. And like, so you go up there, you go past the witches, you get on the ground floor, which is just corpse city, like just full of just bad corpses everywhere.
Yeah.
On the ground.
Oh, and the road up to this would make Vlad the Impaler jealous.
Yeah.
Because you have all these bagged and crucified bodies, stuck up on these pikes, on either side of the road.
Oh, yeah. One thing I want to mention about the path that ramps up in the Executioner is he has some pretty funny AI where, for some reason, I mean, I've never seen him do anything else. As you go up, once he catches aggro, he does like a beeline towards the boss area. It's so weird. Like I've triggered his aggro being like it's made me panic fighting the witches at the same time. Like, oh god, he's going to ambush me right now. But he just runs away.
Are you talking about the one that's behind the cabin?
Yes.
Okay. Huh. I've always like gone to him. So I've never actually seen that. And then if I'm coming back from the boss area, I always fight him on the way up.
Yeah.
So I've never seen where he ultimately goes.
If you go up the path and like pull the witches first towards the edge of the path, like once you aggro them, he just goes and like runs away. It's really weird.
Huh. That is weird.
Yeah.
That's curious.
He's very, like when you're doing the farming run, he's very unpredictable, it feels like. And maybe that's just because he's not doing something that feels logical to me.
Yeah, he's definitely got some weird paths going on, I guess.
He's not the standard executioner.
Right.
So, but you get to this room, you head down into the basement, and we're heading into the boss fight with the Witch of Hemwick.
This is a very non-standard fight. Like this is more in line with your Gascoignes than your cleric beasts,
or even like something even weirder.
Yeah,
like even more non-standard. Like not quite as non-standard as like Girl Vinland, you know. But this is a really interesting boss fight, and I was like, a lot of my goodwill of this area comes from this boss fight and just being so different than everything we've done so far. Like the Gascoigne fight is awesome. Like it is a fight with a hunter with your same skill set. The fact that ultimately you end up doing a lot more of those takes a little bit of a shine off. Like it just makes it a little bit less unique. Like you fight a lot of hunters with your same skill set. They're not quite as substantial as Gascoigne, but they're similar. But up until this point, it's been beast, beast, beast. And this is just like weird. Like I've always liked the gimmicky boss fights.
Your false idols.
Yeah, my false idols, my Priscilla's.
Pinwheel as well. Definitely that sort of vibe.
Yeah, I love that. Like just when you get here, it's just like this big empty, spooky room, and there's one of these things that you very well could have already ran into. There's these mad ones here that is here, and then
apparently nothing else.
And yeah, exactly. You kill this mad one, and then you actually had to find the boss. And God, like we can talk for just a second about how this boss looks. This is amazing. Like I love this.
Yeah.
Like
so she doesn't reveal herself until you get close enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like a distanced limited. You have to trip the limit on her.
Yes.
Better wow. In order to actually see her, and she's kind of tiny. Like she's kind of smaller than you by virtue of this hunchback that she has.
Mm-hmm. And she's wearing an outfit made out of eyeballs. Like she's like that Aqua Teen Hunger Force where Carl gets made out of eyeballs.
If I woke up looking like that, I run towards the nearest thing and kill it.
Yeah, exactly. She's just got eyeballs hanging from her, like she's just festooned her entire outfit with them, and it's just so creepy.
Yeah,
like it's so good.
I mean, especially because like maybe because of the way the fight is paced, you're only going to see a little bit of it or a little bit of her at a time before it really sinks in.
Yeah, like what are these? What is this design? Oh, she's covered with pustules. Oh no, she isn't. Like
No.
she's just she is a witch. And she's wearing a coat made of
I
eyeballs.
wonder if maybe she wants more like eyes on the inside, so to speak, and that but she's not really doing that the correct way. She's just taking them actual eyeballs from other people.
Gary, you have to share what the person on Facebook said.
Oh, it's very funny. Let me find the person just so I can give them proper credit.
Yeah, because there's more like enemies later in the game. Like they've achieved that through their own own sort of organic process, but this is like a witch who's maybe has the idea that this is something that's possible, but
she's cargo culting it,
right?
Yeah, well that's actually when we get into what she's ultimately guarding, that's kind of lines up with my best theory about her that I was gonna say. But let me take us back into this Facebook thing. So I've been today, since I was doing all this research, I've been talking sugar about the design of this boss and finding high-res images. Like Kole said, you don't really get a good look. So I posted a really great picture of her on our Facebook, and Doug on our Facebook, I won't share his last name, wrote, "Don't dress for the insight you have, dress for the insight you want." Which I think that's very funny. So good job, Doug.
Yeah. But you only have a very short window of opportunity to either see this witch or do damage to her.
Yes. Backstabs, like if you can do a charge attack and do a backstab, that's your best bet. I didn't figure that out until like my fourth time fighting her. It didn't take me. This is a boss who I aced on my first run through, but like the fourth character I ran through here, I figured out like, oh, she's very slow. I can probably backstab her, and that does tons of damage. But she still has more tricks.
Yeah.
To her. So during the entire fight, more mad ones are spawned. The kind of trick to these, similar to a later boss, is not to fight them.
Yeah.
Because they move very slowly and they're kind of hard to avoid. And you can juke them using the really interesting geometry of this level, which are these kind of two ramps that go through. But after you do enough damage to the witch, another one appears. So there are actually two witches.
Well, there have been two witches all along.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. One of them will make itself known to you, I guess.
Yes.
And that one has a health meter that you can't actually see. Which is just like, that's a cool twist. Like, this entire time I thought there was one witch. There's actually two witches. What if one witch was two witch? Works for me.
Which witch is which?
Exactly. Escape from which witch. So what she does is she kind of like she's pretty weak, and that's why she's summoning these mad one things. She wants to paralyze you is the attack that I, only ever really got hit by.
Yeah.
Where she shoots these rings. And then if she does it, she climbs onto you and pries your eyeball out with this like wicked tool thing that she has, which like I'm looking at a high-res image of it now, and it looks like a beak attached to a bone, like a crow's beak attached to a bone.
So good.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's tremendously damaging.
Yeah.
If you are of low enough level, that's going to one-shot you.
Yeah, it is a really high damage attack, and that's, I mean, it's fair because it's so slow and the windup is so considerable. But like, she just wants more eyes. Like, that's her thing.
Yeah, and you just walked 2 volunteer eyes right to her front door. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is one of those bosses that's not that hard, but like I'm still afraid of it. That tends to happen with Souls bosses for me, where I don't necessarily have that hard of a time defeating them because I feel like I don't really learn the encounter that much. So it's like I just did the fight again in New Game Plus the other night, and the whole thing was very close, and I beat it on my first try, which I guess you could say that means it's not that hard. But at the whole time, I was still just kind of like, "Don't screw this up! Don't screw this up!" Like, in New Game Plus, I mean, it takes a long time to take this boss down.
I mean, it's designed to be tense, right? Because after you do damage to her, she cloaks up again, and teleports away. So you're trying to find her, but like something that happened to me is, you're walking around, she kind of blends into the background a little bit. I would have like activated her or aggroed her again without realizing it.
Yeah.
And just to have her come up and, do a tremendous amount of damage to me there. So like, and it doesn't matter if she was visible the whole time, this would be a completely different fight, because it would be less tense.
She's so subtle. And like, I mean, as subtle as you can be wearing a coat made of eyeballs, but like, she's not like, we're so used to bosses in this game, just like screaming and coming right at us.
Yeah.
Like every boss we've fought so far has been very aggressive.
Yeah.
She, like you said, you will just run into her without knowing it. And she, even in her animations, the way she walks around, like she has nowhere better to be, like just kind of like she's got all the time in the world. And you just get the sense that like, boy, like this is what children in Yharnam were scared of. Like, this is the story that they told to people in Yharnam. Like, watch your eyes. Yeah, don't go into the woods. Watch your eyes if you go into the woods, because the Witch of Hemwick will take them from you. Like, it is a fairy tale come to life. Like, like a really dark fairy tale. Like, all of my favorite bosses in this game are not hard.
Yeah.
And are these weird concept ones that I just think are just like really imaginative and evocative to me for some reason. I just love it. Like, it is one of my favorite bosses in the game.
Yeah.
Super, super good.
If you defeat one of these witches, the other one after a while will raise the first one.
I've not seen that.
Yeah.
I always tended to, like, just on accident, because I can't see both health bars, but kept them at more or less the similar amount of health.
Yeah.
But I've read that online that they do that.
It happened to me the first time. The first time I fought this, I also aced her, but it was very close.
Yeah. Well, and also it just takes a long time. Like, she's relatively tanky if you're not doing backstabs. And if you go to this area as soon as you're able to, which is not a bad idea because of what we'll talk about next. So it makes sense that you would give her enough time to really do that.
Yeah.
I just can't say enough good things about the Witch of Hemwick. Like, I love this. I love this concept of this boss fight and the execution.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's really, really good. After you beat her, all the rest of the mad ones die. Her arena has some statuary that's kind of interesting, but I can't make it out.
Yeah.
These kind of bandaged figures in kind of praying motion, and then a large central lady in the middle who's kind of holding court. At first I thought was related to Canehurst, but it's not. It doesn't look similar at all.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's up with the statuary and her weird castle that she lives in. I don't know why she lives in a castle. Like, those are the parts I don't have.
I mean, is it possible that this is kind of a relic of a previous version of the society? Like what if it's, a Thumerian castle or something like that? Something that kind of predates this, and because it has kind of regressed into this kind of like farming village, or I guess corpse farm village. Like she took up roost here because she is the figure of power, right?
Yeah, because she's a sinister hermit crab.
Yeah.
And she just finds castles and lives in them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would buy it. The interesting thing, so she's guarding something. Again, this is, the last we fought the Bloodstarved Beast, and he was guarding the way that we go into Chalices. You head down this path behind her, and you find this little workshop room where there is a hunter tied to a chair who's long dead.
Yep.
And he gives you the rune workshop tool. So when we talked about what this thing does, is it allows you to equip runes, and it introduces Carol. Like, we've seen Carol in our rune descriptions, but this is the most we learn about him a little bit. Two-part question. and the second part's predicated by the first part. One, do you think this is Carol? And two, if so, I think that might be when we talked about her cargo culting it or her trying to do, her kind of kidnapping this person who made these runes and building this code out of eyes stacks up to an imperfect understanding of what Willem's doing.
Yeah.
So like that could be what she's doing. Like these creatures are like, I do get the sense that these are like not intelligent creatures. Like these are base people, you know, and that kind of comes in with that like Lovecraft Country, like, these are people in the sticks, you know, they're scary and gross sense. And this is her trying to gain that power, but not doing it very well.
I like that a lot. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, so like the only reasons I would have to say no to that are just that one, it would be too pat and too convenient. But that is kind of counterbalanced by the other reason, which is, I guess it would be a reason for it'd be unsatisfying if this was a nobody, much like
who has the Carol rune. Yeah.
Much like it would be unsatisfying.
Right.
It's unsatisfying that the Bloodstar Beast is really nobody, aside from probably another high ranking official in the church. Right. And the timeline, I think kind of matches up, because if you look at the description here, on the the thing itself, it says, hey, this is letting you capture the kind of the words and power of the old ones without using blood, and Willem would have again, past tense, would have approved. So he came after this, and that timeline lines up with him being alive currently.
Yeah at the time you run into it. So he, we know at some point, and we're going to get into all of the Willem and the church and Bergenworth and all that stuff. It's just a little bit beyond where we're at now. But like, Carol and his relationship to Willem and the way that they kind of worked, like lines up with this. The idea that like, even if it's not actually Carol, if it's somebody who just has the tool and she's just trying to learn the same thing that Carol knows, which we'll ultimately find out is that Carol can actually take the sounds of the old one and inscribe them into these runes.
Yeah.
So, and what's interesting too, if you look at this item really close up, it's a brand. Yeah. In a case, and you brand them onto your brain. Somehow, like the description of how you put on runes is that you brand them onto your mind. Yeah. But it's actually an iron brand that looks like the Bloodborne symbol, the Hunter's Mark. Yeah.
So it's kind of funny, right? Because that also lines up thematically with the game, which is there is this thing beyond that a bunch of different people are trying to understand, and a lot of the conflict it kind of arises that arises, at least on the human scale, is from the sectarian, ways that they differ in trying to find this truth. Right. So this rural, imperfect, and probably pretty crude kind of co-option of that, really lines up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where I lean on it. But again, then if she's trying to co-opt the Willem way of using runes and eyes, that definitely means that the Cainhurst proximity is just a coincidence, because that's so not what Cainhurst does. So I don't know, like it doesn't form a complete picture, but it's fun to fuck around and guess. Yeah. So,
I mean, being that we began the episode saying, man, I really don't know about the lore. Like that's some pretty good travel for us.
Yeah. I was going to say it wraps up kind of nicely.
Yeah. Well, we solved it. Good job, boys.
Yeah.
What are we doing next time, Kole?
Well, next time we're going to be doing an episode about chalice dungeons. Because of the way these articulate, it's going to be difficult for us to say ahead of time, like, hey, we're going to do these chalices, these chalices, these chalices. So that's going to shake out in the details as we approach it.
Yeah, we're going to start with the chalices you can start with. Yeah. At this point. So in that episode, we're going to be joined by Jeremy Greer of the Dark Souls Haters blog, and frequent Bonfireside Chat guest and participant. Very frequent on Facebook. That guy is like, he's like the guy at work who's always willing to help you move. Yeah. Like if anybody goes on Facebook and they're like, I'm having a hard time with this boss, like Jeremy's there he's got a character and he's ready to help out. So, so we're happy to have him back. And it's going to be interesting because I admit that I haven't fully done the chalice dungeons at the time of recording. Like I've done them and poked my head in several times, but always end up getting kind of turned away. And for somebody who does a Bloodborne podcast, that's irresponsible and wrong. And I should
neither have I. And that's rare for me to get so behind in a Souls game. But I've also been like super busy since Bloodborne came out, so I haven't even completed the Chalice dungeons. So I'm glad you didn't invite me on for that episode, because it's like usually as someone who pokes around and looks at a lot of the details of the game, I would just be constantly like, I have no idea. Like, I mean, there's like so many like reoccurring questions and little odd details about the Chalice dungeons that are neat, but I've never really got to poke around to any of those. Like, there's a couple of rare enemies that can pop up, and there's some weird details like a bell that you can find that are interesting landmarks that people might have questions about, but I don't really know much about that stuff.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, once you the PS4 dump happens or whatever, I'm gonna be really interested to see what you and the rest of the people who are into that stuff find about the Chalice dungeons, because everything someone's pointed out so far that's like a weird, unique thing really gets me going. It's just there's so much space between those things, which is part of the reason why I haven't gone through it. Not that I dislike them, like I like them, but I've been on the record for a while of like I view these as a bonus. Yeah. Like I view these as instead of nothing, they're great. They're not meant to be like perfectly designed and thoughtful little levels the same way the rest of the game is.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I find that I sort of enjoy them more sort of plopping down at like the short route Chalice. And I mean, sometimes it takes a really long time to get summoned, which sucks, but I don't know, I'll just sort of like do something else while I'm waiting to get summoned. And I find them a lot more fun just helping other people rather than actually sort of going through it all myself.
So that's what we're doing next. If you have anything to say about the first kind of your first exposure to Chalice dungeons, hit us up at duckfeed.tv/contact. In the meantime, Illusory, thank you again for joining us. Just want to say
thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you remind people online where they might be able to find you?
Oh, sure. Most of my stuff is on my Tumblr, which is illusorywall.tumblr.com. Sometimes I also just sort of post random stuff to my Twitter, which is Illusory Wall, and also to the Dark Souls Reddits. Sometimes I put random topics in there you can find. If you want to sort of stalk what I do, I guess you could just look up my username on Reddit, Illusory Wall, and look at the topics I've posted. It's all sort of stuff that fits that same theme, so...
So that's where you can find Illusory, and also you can hear his responses. You're pretty active in the appendix episodes as well. As Gary said, you can go to duckfeed.tv/contact. Our own admin stuff, there's the Facebook group, facebook.com/bonfiresidechat, to kind of help get our number up. We're still approaching 1,000, which is really cool. I would love to cross that milestone here shortly.
Yeah. And if you want to help out the show directly, you can either rate and review us on iTunes. That helps a lot. It helps people learn about us. You can tell a friend or blog about it or Twitter about it. I love it when I see people doing that. And you can also patronize us in the positive sense of the word. Become our patrons at patreon.com/duckfeed.tv.
Yeah.
And so that also, the number's also been climbing. I have a personal plug I want to throw in just real quick. If you go to garybutterfield.itch.io, I have released a game by the time this drops. So you can download that. Check it out. It is a interactive short story. Just a few bucks, you get the game and the soundtrack and stuff. And I would appreciate it if you guys checked it out. So,
yeah. Do you want to say the name of the game?
The name of the game is Early Frost Warning. So it's the only thing on my page on itch.io. It's not actually on there at the time of recording, because I am compiling the soundtrack stuff right now. But it's all done and tested and stuff. And it's hard to make a game. It takes a long time. I want to throw out a quick thank you to Sean Ogue Murphy too, who helped me out with some of the scripting in that. And we have some goodies his way because he generously helped me with his time, or lended me his time, because I am not the most code and script kind of capable person. So,
cool. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Cool. Yeah, so until next time, what should they do, Cole?
They should... Oh, boy, there's no dialogue in this area. They should listen for the murmurs in the graveyard.
Umbasa.
And we all pray that we will have far more soon.
I can't wait.